He was unique, you know. His size, he was big. His voice was different.
I've got a touch of hangover, bureaucrat. Don't push me.
He walked different. He even rode a horse. I mean, I could tell him on a horse from a mile away, the way he sat a horse. Everything was unique about him. I think that people were attracted to that. And he had been in film so long. I mean, he started in the 20s, in the late 20s, and clear up through the 70s. So he became a part of people's families. They'd been watching him from the time they were this high until they got older. And he just became part of the family.
John Wayne had millions of fans as Hollywood's ultimate American hero. But his greatest admirers were those who knew him best, his family. For the movie McClintock, Wayne's son Michael sat in the producer's chair, while son Patrick and daughter Aisa acted alongside of their father. But make no mistake, the Duke at 56 was in command, and everyone knew it.
When my father's on a picture, he also has a great deal to say about how things are done. When you work with my dad, you come to my dad and he tells you what to do and you do it. It's that simple.
You do what you want, McClintock. We'll do what we want.
Fellas my age generally call me GW or McClintock. Youngsters call me Mr. McClintock.
Fans knew what to expect of a John Wayne character. Plenty of action, punctuated with cut-to-the-chase words.
I've taken all I'm going to take from you.
You are insane!
You are going to tell me why you packed up, picked up, and walked out on me.
But as Cattle Baron George Washington McClintock, Wayne brought something extra to the role.
Thanks.
Humor.
McClintock was one of the earlier films to come out to be a sort of comedy western. The conflicts were between men and women, and there was a lot of characterizations and relationships between people.
Don't you think it's about time you told me what put the burr under your saddle about me?
I don't intend to stand here and hold a midnight conversation with an intoxicated man.
It's based loosely on a play by William Shakespeare called Taming of the Shrew. Of course, Maureen O'Hara is the shrew. Sorry, Maureen.
And I am not intoxicated. Yes.
It was very interesting because we had to figure out a way to sell it and not sell it like a normal John Wayne film, because people might have expected a lot more life and death situation than in this film. So what we did was, with the main titles, we tried to make them funny. The ads, we tried to make humorous too, so people would understand that it was going to be a little different kind of John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara film.
Comedy may have been something new for a John Wayne Western, but this was comedy with a physical punch. From dangerous leaps to bone-crushing falls, Wayne wasn't above performing many of his own stunts.
Well, you know that big mud fight, which was a major action scene and probably the thing that most people remember about McClintock. Well, it required people going down a mudslide that was built especially for it. We had done some concrete, and then we used a thing called bentonite to lubricate, but it's like an oily, horrible, slimy mud. Well, at first, we thought that only the stuntmen would go down the slide, doubling the actors. Well, so the first stuntman went down and made a big thing out of it. You know, oh my God, you know, it's a great big thing, and he wanted $600 and this and that and the other thing. And my father was watching him. He says to Maureen, he says, come on, let's go down that GD slide. And they went down the slide, so then everybody started going down the slide.
What happened for the actors, including myself, the rest of the cast, is once my dad and Maureen O'Hara went down the slide, then we all had to go down the slide. We couldn't say anything, we couldn't complain or anything. I mean, they went down the slide, so everybody had to go down the slide.
Although well into his 50s, John Wayne showed no signs of slowing down, and his efforts paid off. McClintock earned more than $10 million at the box office. A remarkable feat, especially considering its release date just weeks prior to one of the bleakest days in American history.
The last time we gave an interview for this film, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. We were at Paramount Studios, and we were talking to an ABC correspondent. And I remember it very well, and the reason I remember the time and everything is because his secretary came out. We were shooting outside, like on the back lot at Paramount, and his secretary came out from the office and said, the president has just been assassinated. It was right November 22nd, right when President Kennedy had been assassinated.
End of interview.
Yeah, that was the end of the interview.
32 years later, McClintock stands as a shining example of John Wayne's stellar talent. He was and is Hollywood's most enduring Western hero.
The big reason that people want to see his films is he learned a long time ago not to do what he wanted to do as an actor, but to do what his audience wanted him to do. He found out what his audience wanted him to do, and he did it, and he gave it to them.
Pilgrim, you caused a lot of trouble this morning. Might have got somebody killed. And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I won't.
Hear more from Michael and Patrick Wayne as they reminisce about their father throughout the evening. And now, TNT's special presentation of McClintock. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
The McClintock character had a code, and he always looked in his roles for a character that had a code. And as long as the character didn't deviate from that code, the code didn't necessarily have to be his in real life or off screen, but it had to have a code, and he didn't deviate from it. And he would surprise people. He would surprise the audience with the different things that happened, but he would never trick them. And that's kind of what he looked for when he was selecting a role.
We now return to McClintock. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
One sequence in the film we did was the mud fight sequence, and we were shooting, I guess, late autumn, or it was really nice. And most of the time we were in Arizona. It was really beautiful weather in the 70s, very warm. But for some reason, the 4 days that we shot this mud fight sequence, it was freezing. It was absolutely ice-cold freezing. And we also were in a place near Tombstone, and the accommodations were very limited and very austere. And I shared a room with my dad. And so we go to bed at night, and we're in a room that has a linoleum floor and a tin shower. I mean, it's very, very austere. And we were watching the news at night, and we both fell asleep. And I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had the blankets up to here. My face was frozen, and the TV set is going and bright light and everything. And I'm going, I cannot get back to sleep. And I didn't want to get out of bed to turn this TV set off. So, and I saw my dad start to move. So I froze in bed like this, and I pulled the covers up, and I squinted my eyes, and I was watching him. And he woke up, and he looked at the TV set, and he looked over at me, and he looked back at the TV, and he looked over at me, and he just was staring at me. I know he was trying to will me awake, you know, but and finally just got exasperated, threw the covers back, and he's like tiptoeing over this TV set. Well, I had been biting the inside of my lip to keep from laughing anyway. Well, there was too much at this point in time. I just had to explode in laughter because I did get one good one up on him, but usually he usually gets the good ones on us.
We now return to McClintock. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
I had a fight scene with a young guy in the movie, and then his uncle came in after we had our fight. I thought I was supposed to be like a boxer from college, so I take care of this guy. But then the guy's uncle comes in to take care of me.
Oh, so you're the young farmer boy that whipped my nephew. Well, I'm Fauntleroy Sage, young Ben's uncle.
Well, I'm no farmer, but if you're young Ben's uncle, yes, I whipped him.
And he's a great big guy. He's about 6'6", probably 280. You know, he's a great big, solid guy. So my dad's going to soften him up. He says there'll be no kicking in the shins, and he kicks him in the shins, and he punches him below the belt, and he twists his nose. Well, when he's going to do this in the show, he's faking these kicks, but the guy's not reacting. It doesn't, you know, he's I don't know whether he's scared or nervous, or for some reason, he's not taking a big enough reaction to these things. And my dad wants him to get bigger, and he keeps saying, big reaction. But he doesn't have a lot of patience, so when the guy came in the next time, he really kicked him in the shins and hit him low, and he twisted his nose, and twisted, and he had to twist his nose so much to get the kind of reaction that he wanted, that when he took his hands away, he looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He had the bright red nose, and it was bright red all day, and every scene he was in, bright red.
He's all yours.
We now return to McClintock on TNT. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
I remember he's talking to Stephanie Powers, to his daughter in the film, and he says, "You think you're going to get this, you know, but you're not." He said, "I'm going to leave it, you know, make it a park so a lot of people can enjoy it." Well, I remember one time he had a great Russell bronze that I liked, and he says, "You like this bronze, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you're not going to get it." He says, "Because if I give it to you and then I give the other bronze to Patrick, it'll just sit in your living rooms and gather dust and nobody will see it." What he said is, "I'm just going to donate it all to the National Cowboy Hall of Fame where everybody can appreciate it." And that's what he did.
We now return to McClintock. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
Well, I remember one time, too, talking about stunts, that there was a stunt where Maureen and my father had a little argument in the bedroom.
I've taken all I'm going to take from you.
You are insane!
You are going to tell me why you packed up, picked up, and walked out on me.
And then they came out on the front porch, and we went along the outside, and she went backwards off the balcony, landed in a hay wagon, and then he jumped off after her.
2 years ago, you remember, you came home from Denver with lipstick all over your...
So she went off, and I think Dean Smith, one of the stuntmen dressed up as her, went off backwards and into the hay wagon. And then my father went up, and I thought maybe they put the stuntman up there. So I said, "Wait a minute, what's happening here?" He says, "Well, I'm going to jump off." I said, "Oh, that's great. You're going to jump off a, $1 million star when we got a stuntman." He says, "Well, you want Chuck to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I want Chuck to do it." So he said, "Okay, Chuck, come on." So Chuck did it, and then he said, "Okay, now I'm going to do it." So now Chuck got paid, and then, and he did it anyway. I always lost those arguments. I don't know why.
We now return to McClintock on TNT. Back to our McClintock hosts, Patrick and Michael Wayne.
Well, I think that that every time I work with him, and I had the opportunity to work with him a lot, I knew more and more that he was more than just an actor. I mean, he was a director, he was a producer, he was a star, he had not to write dialogue. He was a complete showman. And sometimes we talk about it, and he used to kind of play it down a little bit. He says, "Well, just by osmosis, a guy that's been in the business as long as I am has got to pick up something." And so he kind of played down his talents and his ability. But I think that he was a great showman.
We now return to McClintock.